Hello, good evening and welcome to the program. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV, your go-to platform for everything politics, policy and governance. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. Tonight, we dive into the political storm in Rivers State following the Supreme Court's landmark ruling on Friday. The Apex Court nullified the local government elections held on October 5th, 2024, effectively sacking all council chairmen. In a bold move, the court also barred the CBN, the Accountant General of the Federation, and other financial bodies from releasing funds to the Rivers State government until it complies with previous court rulings. Adding another twist, the Supreme Court upheld the legitimacy of the Rivers State House of Assembly led by Martin Amehule, dismissing Governor Siminalayi Fubara's appeal. The ruling orders Amehule and his lawmakers to resume legislative duties immediately. Now, what do these rulings mean for the political balance of power in Rivers State, and what are the legal implications? To help us break it all down, we have Sam Kargbo, a senior advocate of Nigeria, who is here with us tonight to help us navigate this apparent legal quagmire. Good evening to you, as always, SAN, and thank you so much for joining us on the program. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too, and thank you for having me.
Right. How foolproof is the judgment of the Apex Court? More often than not, Nigerians have cause to question the integrity of the judgment, but reading, what the Apex Court had to say about this one, what do you make of it?
Well, you got me scared there when you give me the impression that I could actually second guess the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is supreme, and for us as lawyers, we say it is the giver of meaning, and whatever it says is final. And the only other spot for you to appeal is upstairs to God, and that is if you can communicate with God. So they put finality to the issues that were presented before them. And roughly, I think what was in issue was whether or not Fubara, as governor, was supposed to have presented his budget before them. And I think the advice, or he advised himself to believe that they cross-carpeted, and because of that, assuming that was what was done, he assumed that that very particular action by itself has created a vacancy, and he acted on that to mean that all of them are no longer members of the State House of Assembly. But some of us have been warning, and I think I've said so over and over here that until the Supreme Court or a court says so, you cannot assume, because the provisions of the law or the provisions of the Constitution in particular, they are not self-executing. Even where the words are very clear to say, if you do this, there will be a vacancy, until the court say, yes, you have taken steps that were anticipated by that provision. And the Constitution has made it very clear that it is the court that can determine the tenure of an elected public officer.
Okay.
As long as it's been elected on a mandate, it is only the court that can say, oh, you are no longer a member of this house, and therefore there is a vacancy, and would give orders to INEC to conduct election to fill in that space. Okay,
so let's take a look at that provision of the Nigerian Constitution, section 109, subsection 1G, as it talks about what may lead to the removal of state lawmakers who defect to another political party. This is talking about something as well. Here it is. This is the section that addresses it. It says, a member of the House of Assembly shall vacate their seat if they defect from the political party through which they were elected, unless the party is merged with another party, the party is dissolved, and there's evidence of a division, which is of what we know as factional crisis within the party at the national level. I mean, it's safe to say that, no court has yet determined the validity of the case against the 27.
The provision that you read there, I think that could be a provision from the old law, because I think the new law talks about membership of another party.
Yeah.
It's membership of another party until you become a member of another party. And I think I said so here. It's not just enough for you to say, oh, I saw them on TV, on air.
Even when they made public pronouncements?
You cannot become a member of a political party by declaration. There are steps. You have to be admitted by the party. I cannot now just sit here and say, from today I'm a member of APC or a member of PDP.
Isn't that what we see on a regular basis in our National Assembly? Lawmakers standing before plenary and saying they are joining a different political party, they are defecting from this party to the other party. Isn't that the practice?
When they do that, they take the next step by regularizing.
Which is not usually public, right?
No, you go to the ward. It is at the ward level that you register. You'll be registered and given the party card and the party membership number. That is the evidence of membership, not by self-declaration. If not, hey, somebody from
so
nowhere
we shouldn't believe what we hear from the 27 lawmakers. We shouldn't believe what we see when they're waving the APC flag.
It's not a matter of believing. You see, we're talking about what the law is saying. For you to have the anticipated consequence that the governor acted upon, he acted on the belief that for him, he said, they made a public declaration, and therefore, from that moment, their seats were vacant. And he started acting on that. But we were saying, no, if I were him, and I could have advised him, you know what, now that they've done this declaration, egg them on so that they go and register, or even make sure that you get them registered, assuming you can do that. Once they've past that Rubicon, they can no longer come. But this time around, what they acted on, it has simple declaration. I think that's simplistic.
So even when the APC in Rivers State says they are part of the APC family, still it's not enough. They have to show evidence that they are actually members of the APC.
Now, let me put it this way. Assuming the APC in Rivers even welcomed them and threw a very lavish party to them, and there is an election tomorrow for a party position, and they stand and they get nominated. But meanwhile, somebody who is aggrieved by that nomination goes to court to say, he is nominated, but he is not a member of the party. Definitely that person will win, because what? He is not yet a member of the party. You have to do the needful. You have to be registered as a member, given a party card, before you can be counted as a member of that political party. You can be a sympathizer of a party, you can hobnob with them, but when it comes to the crunch, you do not have what? The rights of a rightful member of that political party. You have to do the needful.
Right.
But I do not think that was the issue that was resolved by this case. What the court is saying, and which is also what I think the public should understand, until, you understand, the court makes a declaration that by this action you have taken, you are no longer a member of this political party. He remains a representative and a state house member, and therefore he has the right and the powers of a full-fledged lawmaker. And therefore, if you are to present a budget before that particular house, it has to be one that includes them, because mind you, the Constitution says for the National Assembly shall have what? A minimum of 24 and a maximum of 40, right? Now you have 2. By our standard, that's not a state house of assembly, by the definition of the Constitution. And you cannot just sit down by yourself. You recreate, like I've always said here, the Constitution does not even want you to reproduce its section. It is that jealous. Do not interpret it. Do not go and give some form of a syllable or mispronounce it as it is. Because what? It is a God unto itself. The only person that same constitution has donated the power to interpret it and give meaning to it is the court, not you.
Right. The section that the SAN was referring to is section 121 of the Constitution, where it talks about the governor must present the budget to the full assembly and not just, a fraction of it. But let's also talk about one particular part of the judgment that has caught a lot of people, scratching their head. Yes, you have the breakdown there. You shall prepare and lay before the House of Assembly for the upcoming financial year. No funds can be withdrawn from the State Assembly or from the Treasury, I beg your pardon, except in accordance with the Appropriation Act or another passed by the State House of Assembly. But of course, I get the biggest takeaway there is, to the full State House of Assembly, and the governor, as we've come to know, only passed that budget, or rather presented that appropriation bill before four. Four of them.
Okay.
So let's take a look at section 161, because 162, I beg your pardon, because that talks about the suspension of federal allocation to the River State government because of what the Supreme Court says is a violation of some of its provision. And a lot of people have so many questions about this one, because according to the provisions, the section mandates each state government must receive monthly allocations from the federation account. Local government council also get their share through a state joint account or state local government, joint account. Does this judgment not violate the, financial independence of the state government?
Yeah, what are you saying? It does not. It does not. And
the Supreme Court has the power to stop?
No, listen. I was part of the case I was taken by the Attorney General of the Federation against the Attorney General of Abia State and the 35 others. And our thoughts then, we made very rigorous resistance to say, oh no, you are asking the court to make a law. Because that section, from the way we understood it, is meant to be the way it is. The money should be paid first to the state, and the state would now by itself to open a joint account with the local councils and thereafter disburse. Fine. But the Supreme Court said no. It has the responsibility of sustaining the Constitution to ensure that every organ that is created by the Constitution acts within its powers. And therefore, he interpreted the Constitution the way it felt was, in tandem with the purpose. And mind you, that is also a technique in interpretation. What was the purpose of this section? The purpose of that section was what? To take governance to the local council. And the section 7 is very clear that you have the responsibility as a state governor to ensure that the local council run democratically. They are constituted democratically and function democratically. That is your responsibility. When you get the money for them, you are only an agent. You are not the principal of that money, and you have no part of that money. You are only an agent. Perhaps they do not want to have too plenty conduits from the federation account. So let's sift it here so that they will do the needful over there. But now that it is not done, the Attorney General, who is representing the Federation, the chief law officer of the Federation, he felt the Federation has what? Been injured by the rascalities, if that's the word, of the governors, and therefore he has to seek the protection of the Supreme Court so that this other small as it is, but it's an organ of government created the same way by the same authority like the state was created. And therefore, I said, now you can only have that money when you act within the principles of the Constitution. The moment you violate it, that money would be withheld.
You're saying there is no concern about judicial overreach here, because that's the expression that a lot of people are using, saying the Supreme Court, is conducting itself in such a manner that is tantamount to a judicial overreach by saying stop the allocation to River State government.
It is not. What am I saying here? It is the person that gives meaning to those words. The Constitution has given it that absolute right to say whatever it is written here, what that one means has to come from you. You are the giver of meaning to those dry words. And as at today, that is the meaning it has given to that section. But let me also tell you about the responsibility of the Supreme Court. Why they say it is what? The last hope of the common man. Because it is the one that has the power of judicial review to ensure that every public authority that is donated any public function of power only acts as far as what? The powers that are given to him or her by the Constitution. And whenever there is an overreach, or like we have in this instance, that overbearingness of the state governor, it is the responsibility of the Supreme Court to say no. And do you know what I've been advocating? Which people are saying no. I believe if push comes to shove, the Supreme Court has the power to disbar or declare these governors unfit for public office. It has done so in the case of a lawmaker to say you are not fit for public office and you will not stand for public office till after this number of years. Because here it is. The executive, which is to me is not a democratic institution, by all means, it is not.
Executive not a democratic
it is not,
institution?
because you see, by its nature, it's a demagogue you are creating. You are creating a god. You are given an institution that is represented by a person, such enormous powers.
The powers of the people, the mandate of the people.
Right. But you see, because there is that history and that inherent tendency of abuse, the law say, you know what? Let us create the lawmaker to be and give the lawmaker the power of oversight to ensure that he becomes
checks
the buffer.
And balances.
He becomes the buffer. You understand? This time around, it is not. We are not talking about the Magna Carta, whereby the people ask for the king to donate, to jettison more of his own natural power, so-called natural power. But this time around, you do not have natural powers. Power given to you by the same book that created all of you. That is the Constitution. The law, the same Constitution says, I know your tendency to be overwritten, to be too controlling, to be abusive. Create the lawmaker, give him the powers to impeach you for misconduct. The moment you go out of line and you become abusive, it is the responsibility of the representative of the people to what? Impeach you for misconduct. But where they connive and they absorb them, they betray the people, what in essence you are making, you created a double god. Because what? You empower the person and you create anarchy. Because
where do we in the Constitution find where the apex court, the Supreme Court, has the power to stop what is constitutionally supposed to be a given in terms of resource allocation? Because we're also talking about the obligations of the state government to pay salaries, to carry out all of its financial obligations. These cannot stop. Because that is also a given. Where does the court have the power to do that? Especially because it is hinging that on its own judgment about the legality of the 27 lawmakers who have been sidelined by the River State government.
You see, don't blackmail the Supreme Court here. This rascality cannot continue the way
on whose
it is.
part? On whose part?
On the part of the governors.
Right.
Mind you, what am I saying here? If the lawmakers were responsible, believe me, these gentlemen who are feeling at large and going about the business of governance at his what? His family business, they would have been put to where they belong. But because of what do you call the porridge? Public porridge. These people go there, they connive and betray the people. So what do you have? The only institution that cannot look at them in the eye and say, oh, enough is enough, has to be the judiciary. Because what? The judiciary has the responsibility to maintain what? Rule of law.
Yeah, but also,
and also to maintain the constitution.
But also the status of the defection of the lawmakers, right, is still under legal dispute, right? What if at the end of the day, you know, it is ascertained that they actually have defected to the APC?
So be it. The same court will.
So it will mean that the Supreme Court will have erred, right?
The same court will order for election to fill in those vacancies, but it is not for a governor to sit there and start interpreting the constitution. That's an insult. Okay. He has no business with that. It's all part of the misconduct we are talking about.
Okay, so let's talk about the Rivers Council elections, which also the Supreme Court has nullified, right? Also a by the book judgment in your view?
Of course. It's the same rascality we are talking about. As a court judgment that says, oh no, you cannot. You damn it, you go ahead and conduct election. The same thing is happening in Osun State. Right. That's a judgment. You say, oh, to hell with the court judgment, I'm going to conduct my election. Where is that done? What you do not understand is this. It is not just the social impact of this rascality that we're talking about. It goes to the core of the problem we are having with the governance system. These gentlemen, they go into office and appropriate the state. They become the state. We have a situation where one rascal there spent 8 years in office without a state house of assembly. The heaven didn't fall. The other one, he did not even sit for 1 day in government house. All of them, state lawmakers, when he wants to pass a budget, he calls them, they come and sit on the floor of his house. He walks down there and say, come and sign. This country, it happened. Come on. It's public office that actually lose.
And when it comes to checks and balances, do you think the courts are living up to the billing in checking the excesses? The ones that you've identified
today,
there?
I've said so, over and over, of the three arms of government, it is the only one that I see working.
Is that because of your professional bias? Because you are
a member of
let's be fair.
The bar? No, let's be fair. Let's be fair. But for them, why do you think I cannot come here and kill you and take your wife? You think it's because of the police? No. Look at what happened to Azad. As powerful as he was, the moment there was that breakdown of law and order, what happened? That is fortress. The people went there and ransacked everything. So, the courts have been doing their job. It is that fear that if I do this and I'm taken to court, these are the consequences. You live with that thing, you see it, and you believe that that's what it is. That is why we are all behaving.
Okay. Do you worry? I know this is outside the legal question, but do you worry about the political consequences of this judgment on River State and beyond?
I worry. And that is why, if for anything, I was here, and I said, for his own good, he has to reinvent himself. I said so. I said because, I said, if he does not, we'll be tied him because these people can go for his jugular. What if they impeach him tomorrow? The heavens will not fall. So, there is still room for him to do the needful. He cannot blackmail the courts. The courts have done that which they are supposed to do. It is not the business of the court to say, oh, the consequences are this, economic and everything for the people. No, it is for the people themselves to hold their people accountable.
Right.
And if the people are actually pushed to the wall, they know what to do.
Okay. SN, as always, thank you so much for your invaluable insight and analysis. We do really appreciate you for stopping by on the program tonight. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
All right. Coming up ahead after the break, we take a look at the political ramifications of these developments in Rivers State. We'll be joined by Comrade Daboy Kiabo Wamate, who will be shedding light on what this means for the power struggle in Rivers State. That and more after the break.